So, you know that big promise of Bitcoin, right? To be this amazing global person-to-person cash system? Well, there's always been this one kind of huge catch. It's slow, like really slow. So today we're going to dive into the super clever, maybe even revolutionary tech that's trying to fix all that. We're talking about the Bitcoin Lightning Network.
All right, so before we jump into the solution, we got to really get our heads around the problem. And for Bitcoin, it's a massive problem of scale. I mean, the whole thing was built for security and decentralization, which is great, but that design choice, it came with a pretty serious speed limit baked right in.
And yeah, this chart really puts it into perspective. It's pretty stark. Bitcoin can handle, maybe 7 transactions a second for the entire planet. Now compare that to Visa on a busy day hitting over 47,000. That's not just a small gap. That's like comparing a bicycle to a fighter jet. There's just no way you can run a global payment system at bicycle speed.
And here's the why behind it. Every single Bitcoin transaction, doesn't matter if you're buying a car or just a cup of coffee, it has to be broadcast to the entire world. It has to be verified by every computer on the network. Think of it like this massive global gossip chain. And yeah, that gossip is exactly what makes Bitcoin so secure, but it's also what makes it a total slog for just, everyday payments.
So that really is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? How in the world can you get the speed of something like Visa, but without giving up the decentralization that makes Bitcoin, Bitcoin? Well, the answer, it turns out, is to start thinking a little differently about what a transaction even is.
And this leads us to the solution, this incredible piece of engineering called a second-layer network. The core idea is actually pretty simple. Ready for it? Stop telling the whole world about every single tiny thing you do. Take all the small talk and move it off-chain.
The original paper that proposed the Lightning Network actually starts with this classic philosophical question, and it is the perfect analogy. It basically asks, if you and I are just passing some money back and forth between us, does the entire planet really need to know about every single payment? The Lightning Network's answer is a big, resounding no. All the rest of the world needs to know about is the final score, the final balance.
Okay, so how do they pull this off? They use something called a payment channel. The best way to think of it is like a private hotline between two people. You only touch the main Bitcoin blockchain, the slow, public one, twice. Once to open the channel and once to close it. But all the transactions in between, they are instant, they're private, and they cost next to nothing.
Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around this whole thing is the bar tab analogy. It works perfectly. So, step 1, you open a tab with the bartender. That's your one transaction on the main blockchain, and it kind of locks in some funds between the two of you. Step 2, throughout the night, you're buying drinks, maybe getting around for your friends. Each one of those is an instant off-chain transaction. You're just updating the tab. You're not swiping your card for every single beer, right? And then step 3, at the end of the night, you settle up. You pay the final bill. And that is the one final transaction that goes on the blockchain, showing the final balance. It's pretty brilliant when you think about it.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, right? But if all these transactions are happening privately, off the main blockchain, what's to stop someone from cheating? What stops me from trying to close out that bar tab with an older balance? One that was, a little more in my favor.
Well, the system has this absolutely genius enforcement mechanism. The original paper called it something like a fidelity bond, but the idea is super simple. You create a contract where the punishment for trying to cheat is so incredibly severe that it's just never, ever worth the risk.
So, here's how it works. Let's say I try to cheat you. I broadcast an old channel balance, one where I had more money. The network is built so that you can instantly spot this fraud. And when you do, this is the amazing part, it triggers a penalty. And that penalty gives you all the money in the channel. Not just your share, but my share too. Everything. The risk of losing absolutely everything makes cheating completely irrational. See, it's not about trusting the other person. It's about making the cost of betrayal so high that nobody in the right mind would ever try it. It's a purely economic guarantee.
So these payment channels are fantastic for 2 people. But let's be real, you can't open a direct channel with every single person and every coffee shop on the planet. And that is where the network part of the Lightning Network comes into play. This is where it goes from a cool trick to something really, really powerful.
Here's the crucial takeaway. You don't actually need a direct channel with the person you want to pay. As long as there's a path, any path, of connected channels between you and them, your payment can just hop along that path to get to its destination, all completely securely.
But how does that routing even work without having to trust any of the people in the middle? Let's walk through it. Imagine Alice wants to pay Dave.
But she's only connected to Bob, who's connected to Carol, who's finally connected to Dave. So the payment gets passed along as a series of locked boxes. Only Dave at the very end has the key. Let's call it a secret code. Now, for Dave to get his money, he has to use his secret code to unlock the payment from Carol. But here's the magic. When he does that, he automatically reveals the secret code to Carol. Now she can use that same code to unlock her payment from Bob. And then Bob uses it to unlock his payment from Alice. It's like a domino effect, but in reverse. The whole thing settles backwards, instantly and securely, and no one in the middle can ever run off with the money.
Right, but what if someone in the middle, let's say Carol, just goes offline and breaks the chain? Well, the system has a super clever safety net for that, too. It uses these decreasing timers. So as you see here, Dave at the end of the line might have just 1 day to claim his funds. But Carol, she gets 2 days to claim from Bob. And Bob, he gets 3 days to claim from Alice. This decreasing timeline means everyone has more than enough time to pull their money back if something goes wrong. Nobody gets left holding the bag.
So when you put all of these pieces together, you've got the off-chain channels, you've got the fraud-proof contracts, and this networked routing system. What you end up with is something that could totally change how we use Bitcoin. So let's talk about what this really unlocks.
I mean, all of a sudden buying a coffee with Bitcoin isn't a ridiculous idea anymore. It's actually practical. But what gets really exciting is the idea of true micropayments. Just think about it. Paying a fraction of a penny to read one news article, or tipping a streamer for every second of a video you watch. This could open up brand new business models for the internet. Stuff that's just impossible right now when a single transaction costs dollars and takes forever.
Look, the Lightning Network is definitely still a work in progress. It's complex, it's evolving, but it gives us this really compelling vision for the future, right? A future where Bitcoin can have the rock-solid security of its blockchain and the speed you need for everyday life. And the question it leaves us with is a pretty huge one. Could this be the thing, this second layer, that finally makes digital cash a reality for everyone?
And that's the Lightning Network in a nutshell. It's this fascinating, kind of mind-bending solution to Bitcoin's biggest problem. It's all about trying to transform Bitcoin from just a digital store of value into actual digital cash. Hey, thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.